All right, welcome to the Sae Bae cast number 192 with Fritos. Fritos, how are we doing? I'm just gonna call you Fritos, like the chip brand, or should I
You
like
know,
pronounce it like really strongly, Fritos? Like what would
you
is that?
know,
Is that a play on words, by the way, for Fritos, like the chips?
it is. It 100% is. It's funny you bring that up because I mean, yeah. Hi, I'm Fritos. I do middle age maxing as my series here on YouTube. But I did start with Dark Souls actually a couple of years ago. I started putting together I for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure this is all of you, but there's like a very niche community of people who still do Dark Souls 1 PvP.
Wait, there's
And so
PvP in
there's
that?
like in Dark Souls 1, yeah, it's very like I said, it's super niche, not a lot of people play it, but um it's really janky. The netcode from 20 years ago is not very good, but there's a good group of people who really still enjoy it, and that's why I started making YouTube videos, is just kind of as inside jokes with that stuff. And there's a boss in Dark Souls 1 named Gravelord Nito, and my name was Gravelord Frito. And as time kind of went on, I was like, if I really want to do content creation seriously, having Frito or Fritos Lays on my branding probably isn't a smart idea. So I just switched her over to Fritos and yeah, kept the play on words.
That's nice. So Fritos, like is that like your favorite chip, or just a chip that you enjoy?
Nah, just complete chance. I certainly
Oh, really?
enjoy Fritos,
Okay.
but just the fact that the boss's name was Nito and I went for Fritos, I just thought I'd keep it.
Nice. Okay, so it really like it just happened to be, it rolls off the tongue nicely. It wasn't like I love Fritos chips. It was mainly the boss from Dark Souls that got you that name.
Correct. Yeah. And I had people telling me don't do Fritos. Everyone's gonna think you're a foot guy. And I was like, yeah, I kind of want to keep it, and we're in too deep now. We can't change it anymore.
Yeah. That's cool. Do we just on the Fritos topic, do you have a favorite flavor of Fritos by chance?
I don't. Usually, Fritos is just a garnish for me. I throw it
Okay.
on chili. I don't actually sit there and eat them.
You know what's so I'm not really that big of a Fritos guy. If I do get chips, I've been trying to avoid chips because I would go through phases of just eating bags of chips, and it's just fucking horrible
Oh
for
yeah.
you. But they have these barbecue flamin' hot Fritos. Now I'm not really a barbecue flavor kind of guy. In fact, that's usually like the last flavor I'd go for. But the mixture of the barbecue with the flamin' hot Fritos, it goes crazy. Like they're the best ones. They're really nice.
I'd believe it. I'd
Yeah,
believe it. And I I love spicy food, or I did, and I've talked about this before
you did.
on my own videos. And as you're talking about, I'm not that old, but as I've gotten older, I used to eat. I'm sure you have Buffalo Wild Wings where you're at,
Yeah.
and I used to eat mango habaneros, like 20 boneless mango habanero in one sitting, and I wouldn't bat an eye. I'd wake up the next morning feeling fine, but I don't know what happened, but just one day I went there and I had them, and I was so sick, and I just couldn't eat spicy food anymore. It was like a switch
Really?
flipped.
Holy
I know,
shit.
and it's awful because I don't want to eat any other wings at B-Dubs anymore. I just want my mango habanero back, but
To
my
be
guts say no.
to be fair, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of B Dubs anyway. Buffalo Wild Wings is just it's like it's got the brand name kind of, but those wings are not great in my opinion.
They're questionable.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah, they are. In fact, if I'm going for mango habanero, I'm definitely getting Wingstop's mango habanero. They're way sweeter. They're not as intense as Buffalo Wild Wings mango habanero is actually fucking spicy, like
Oh
really
yeah.
spicy.
It is. Certainly is.
Yeah, so I'm glad to get you on. I am not when I think of old school creators on YouTube, like certain creators come to my mind, but I always forget just how many there really are. Like it is fucking vast out there of just how many old school specific creators are out there and people that I've never heard of. And your name was one that I just hadn't heard of yet. And I just browsed through some of your videos, and I was saying this on stream actually earlier today. Just I was clicking through some of your videos, and I was like, wait, did I just click on the same video? Like that, just like it's that you have the exact same, not even just the words you say at the beginning of every video almost, but the same tone. It's like identical. Like, do you copy that over, or do you actually just happen to say it absolutely flawlessly every time?
No, that's 100% copy and paste. That I've got the
Okay.
same DaVinci Resolve file in there, and I just don't delete the MP3 that's at
Okay,
the
because
start.
I was gonna say, like, if you have somehow managed to sound exactly the same, like that's impressive. So okay,
Yeah,
that makes a lot more sense then.
no. But yeah, I do get that comment a lot about the whole dude. Someone just left a comment. I don't know who this guy is. I looked him up. He's very popular apparently, but someone said I sound like raccoon eggs and just the very stereotypical like monotone, deep voice. Sound the same every single time. I'm sure you only need like 5 minutes of my voice to get a good AI recreation of it
It's
because
true.
it's the same stereotypical low monotone bullshit that you hear from a lot of people.
So had you ever been in like, I always just have to ask because you do have a naturally deep voice. So had you ever been in like some, I don't know, radio stuff, or did you ever do any voice lessons or anything like that, or were you in choir or anything?
In college, I dated a gal. Me and a good buddy of mine, my freshman year of college, happened to date two girls at the same time who were both good friends. I went to college for music, and these two girls were going to college for choir. And so we kind of got conned into joining choir by these two girls. We're two instrumentalists, and they had us join choir. And so I did, during the time of dating them, I spent a semester and a half singing bass two for my college choir. But past that, I have not done any professional voice lessons or anything like that. No.
Okay, yeah, interesting. I was bass two, and it sounds weird because it doesn't sound like I have that deep of a voice. Now it's not like the absolute deep, but when I was in high school, my freshman year, my voice just plummeted because I had a really squeaky voice in middle school, and then it just dropped. I mean, to the point where it is now, like in freshman year. So basically, was singing bass two with the other guys, and I was really the only person in the choir in the bass two section. Most of the guys, I mean, girls really, I feel like, just have a more natural intuition with music, where guys, at least in high school and stuff, they're so lazy, like they don't even know how to read music, most of them. So I understood how to read music, but most of the guys, they're just there, just singing along. Like they don't really know what notes to sing. They just kind of follow along. So I had to lead the bass two section because I was the only one that would read the fucking music and actually learn it, so people wouldn't have to follow me. But in fact, I was in this jazz choir my junior year, and we had a concert, and there's 16 of us in the whole thing. There's four sopranos, four altos, four baritones, and or four
Sure.
tenors, I should say, and four basses. And we all hold our individual mics there for the jazz thing, and the three other basses had no idea what one of the songs was. They just never learned it. I was the only one that learned it. So the choir teacher literally told the other three to turn off their mics while they sang. So I'm the only
Sure.
motherfucker singing, and they're just pretending to sing because they didn't know the notes, and it was gonna just be a shit show if they did it. So I'm the only one singing, but nobody could really tell. But yeah, no, I have some great memories of choir. I was in it growing up, and then even in college for a little bit I was in choir, but I kind of gave up on it. It just wasn't for me. So that's cool though.
Yeah, no, I dropped after about a year and a half.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you get old enough because like in high school it's fun because it's a class. It's it's an elective you can take, and it's great, and there's a bunch of girls there. Once you get into college, it's like, why am I doing this? You start actually like discovering what you want to spend
Right.
your time doing rather than just being forced to go to school.
Exactly. And at that point, it is your time. In high school, you're there regardless. But in college, it's like, why am I spending an hour here on Tuesdays and Thursdays to do the shit that I'm only half committed to?
Yeah, and it's for me especially. I don't know if it's like everybody's uh, experience, but for me, it was really weird transitioning into full adulthood where I'm like, oh, wait. Like I can just make my own decisions now. Like that took me a minute to really understand like I have the freedom to just not go to school if I wanted to. But for some
You
reason,
know?
initially going, it still felt like I was just going down the beaten path of like, okay, this is what you do next. This is what you do next. And I just, I'm realizing, okay, I'm early 20s. I can just do whatever the hell I want. This is actually kind of cool. But it took me a bit longer than the average, I would say, to understand that.
Yeah, I mean it's like whiplash, man, because you're in high school as a senior and you're still asking permission to go piss, and then 3 months
Yeah.
later you're in college and they're like, hey, you can be tried as an adult now. You're 18.
Yeah.
You're good luck, buddy.
Yeah, and I don't know how much you have listened to the cast. I know you said you've listened to quite a few. After high school, I went on a Mormon mission, so that that experience for 2 years was. I mean, I was being, you're living on your own for the first time, but at the same time, you just have a bunch of rules that you need to follow. So you're
Yeah.
basically living under this strict, like, like just cult, like just daily cult rituals, basically, just trying to survive like that. And that, you feel like you have some freedom, but really you have the most restricted freedom for 2 years. But
Oh
it's
yeah.
like an element of it. So once I came back from there, then I was so programmed to just have rules and follow the beaten path and all this stuff that, yeah, like getting free of that took me a little bit longer than I'd say the average person. So
Yeah, I'm sure that's odd to shake.
yeah, it was definitely. So let's hear a little bit about your story when it comes to content creation. How long have you been making videos?
Um, then I was thinking about that because I figured that'd be a question. And off the top of my head, I was gonna say 2 years, but I think we're coming up on three now, maybe even more. My channel doesn't go that far back. Like I said, I kind of started with the whole Dark Souls stuff, and once I once I transitioned to RuneScape completely, I kind of went. I pulled all the stuff that I cared about down from YouTube and saved it onto a hard drive, but then deleted it off the site so that my channel could be RuneScape focused only. But I've been going for probably closer to 4 years now. Mainly starting with Dark Souls. I did a little bit of Binding of Isaac, trying to find my footing there, and you know, as I was getting older, I less and less time to play games, man. I grew up playing video games, obviously. I played RuneScape since I was, holy shit, I don't know. I don't know how young I was, but I mean, I remember like having to call my buddy Travis and be like, "Hey, do you want to log on and go kill goblins?" And then like putting the phone down and having to, start our dial-up connection so that I could log on to the website to go and meet him on whatever world, right?
Those are the days.
I know, man. Those were the days. Get a phone call. Sorry, I have to drop because we gotta redo everything. But
So you had said like 3 to 4 years of total content creation. What about just RuneScape?
just RuneScape, yeah, I let me check here. I want to say maybe a year and a half of just RuneScape.
Okay.
I, I always knew RuneScape was fun. I always played it on and off with the whole old school once it came back. And I came back again, as we do because we take 6 month breaks and then we're sucked right back in. During this time, I was sucked back in. I was committed to learning solo TOA because it had come out just recently. So I don't know. TOA was what, 2 years ago? That must have been exactly that time,
Yeah.
huh?
Yep.
Yeah, and I was really committed to learning solo TOA, and I had a buddy kind of giving me lessons and teaching me how to do it. And then at a 220 invo or a 215 invo, I spooned a shadow solo, and I was like, well, now I have to stick around and play because my bank value just went from 200 mil to at the time probably 1.7 bill.
Jesus Christ. What
I
did
know.
what was the actual feeling of that? Because most people, I would say, oh, actually, I don't know, but my experience pulling a shadow was okay, nice. It's just a shadow. It's a nice weapon upgrade. Like I had seen T-bows beforehand. I'd seen all these things. This was your first big ticket item that you probably didn't even imagine you'd get. So how was the feeling?
Yeah, this was my first fucking raid. It's recorded. It's the actual live reaction. I had shadow play on from recording other stuff, and so It's recorded. It's the I don't know what you call it when you go to my YouTube channel. It's the video that's right there, so you can see my live reaction. But it was it was euphoria, man. It was like it was like taking smack for the first time. It was great. I was way up in the clouds.
And no splits either. It's yours.
And no splits. I know. Like I said, I went from a 200 mil bank to a 1.7 bill bank at that time. It was crazy.
Did you sell it, I'm imagining, immediately?
No,
Oh, you kept it. Okay.
actually, at the time, TOA was still spitting out money, and my buddy, who was kind of, he's really, really high level, like, just doing crazy challenges, really into the esoteric mechanics of the game. He of course starts laughing and rolls his eyes and goes, "Okay, hold up, come here." And he goes, "What you're gonna do is you're gonna sell your bank and buy full ancestral. If you don't have money for runes, I will fully charge your Tumikins for you. And then we're gonna really teach you TOA." And because I had Shadow, the 4x damage in TOA, I got real good. I got real good really fast at it. I run 400s pretty casually in my sleep now, and so it became my home, and that's how I rebuilt my bank for the first little bit. Was just max mage at TOA with complete scraps for the rest of my armor, and that's when I was like, you know what, I should record this journey because it's basically a rebuild, but I only have like maybe an hour, maybe two to play at night because I'm a moderately busy guy, middle aged, whatever. And so I was like, you know what, we'll slave away at TOA for the hour or two I have each night. Now that I have max mage, we'll get real good at it, and we'll record the journey. And that's kind of where I started. The past 2 years has been just me once a week uploading where my account is at.
That's sick. So have you pulled any shadows since?
Nope, not a one.
But you probably made a bunch of money though.
Yeah, that first year, my bank account went from 200 mil to just shy of 4 bill. So I made a really good amount of money because I mean, it's really sad. TOA purples are so cheap right now. I think a Fang is like
Yeah.
10 mil, right?
Oh
It's bad.
God.
It's really bad, dude. But back like a year and a half, 2 years ago, it was still decent money. I'd get,
Hmm.
and I was doing it all solo, and so I would get, I'd get a Masori top, and I would, 80 mil, 100 mil in the bank. It wasn't bad. And I think the 400s that I usually run, it's like a 1 in 11 for a purple, maybe 1 in 10 or something like that. And so I was seeing a purple or two a week.
That's nice. Now you just play a main and you're working on maxing right now, correct?
Correct.
What's the
Yeah,
total level looking like?
the total level, it's funny you ask. 2 days ago, we hit 99 agility finally. Uploaded that video yesterday on Thursday.
Easy.
This morning, technically last night, I got 99 fire making because that took like an hour from where I was. And so this morning, I came downstairs and recorded the fireworks and whatnot. So I got 99 fire making now, and I'm 550k away from 99 fishing. So I am total level 2248. We're getting close to the
Nice.
end here.
What's the
Yeah.
plans after max?
I don't know, because the whole series has been kind of predicated on the fact that it takes a long time to max an account, which is true, especially when you're only putting in maybe like an hour a day. And that's kind of been the large draw for people. The most common comment I get is, "Hey, I'm a dad too. I play only on mobile, and I don't have a lot of time. Seeing this series makes me feel motivated that I can get a Maxscape too." You know, um, and that's kind of my goal with a lot of the stuff that I make. I don't I don't know. It wasn't your stream that I was talking about. It was someone, but I'm 100% convinced that every piece of content in this game is easily accomplishable by every single person who plays this game. I think RuneScape players as a whole have such an inferiority complex, and I don't know why. Things like the Inferno, people are just like, nope, I'll never be able to do it. I'm like, are you sure? I mean, it might take some time, but I I firmly believe that everyone can do it. You know, I see people talking about how Kahlo came out and they'll never be able to accomplish it because they got a full-time job and, you know, and kids and all this stuff. But I'm like, you know, there's simulators out there. You don't have to sit down and grind it out all in one sitting. So I'm hoping that as I finish and max my account, I'd like to show in some way or another that endgame content is still doable by the average Joe Schmo. How I'm gonna do that, I don't know if I'll do like green logging or pet hunting or whatnot, but it'll still be main focused content and hopefully from a digestible point of view for the average Joe who's only playing 60 minutes a day or less.
What do you think is that inferiority complex that it, because I agree with you, there is an element. Is it just, yeah, I don't know what, is it because like the bar to start playing RuneScape is so low and that's kind of what captures a lot of people is just how chill it is. And then it's like, oh God, like you're actually trying to get me to, you know, critically think on a piece of content. This is just way overwhelming. Like what is it, do you think?
I wish I knew because, and I don't mean to like say this to put down people who struggle or anything like that, but as far as RuneScape, like under the hood is concerned, it is far easier than like a modern game that runs off the FPS system, right? Like in Dark Souls or in Elden Ring or you know any of the modern games with like a dodge roll or something like that, right? It's like you know you have 11 frames of invincibility when you roll out of the way or something like in Legend of the Zelda. If you want to dodge out of the way, you have X amount of frames. Like we're talking like 1/60th of a second. RuneScape updates a tick is zero point 0.6 seconds, right? Yeah.
Yep.
A tick is zero point 0.6 seconds. You know, you have such a large amount of time compared to modern gaming to react and to do things. And so I I don't know. Like and again, I'm not saying that to like put down anyone who struggles with content, but maybe it's the fact that it's so different from modern gaming that it's not necessarily harder. Like you obviously have more time to react, but it's certainly I don't think any real modern games operate mechanically off of. I'm probably speaking out of my ass here, but I don't think a lot of modern games operate mechanically off of like a tick system. I think most of the stuff is based off of frames per second, and it's so when you get to that high level where you need to start worrying about every half second, the feel is so much different. You know, RuneScape really is unique in that way.
I feel like another thing, because I'm trying to think of what the pieces of content are that really gatekeep people. And I would say the first one was definitely Inferno or maybe Chambers of Xeric.
Oh yeah.
Chambers came out 6 months prior to Inferno. And
Mhm.
the thing is like Inferno, let's exclude Chambers. Like Inferno came out and that was so much harder and so much it's just like we had no clue what was coming out basically for the Inferno. That was so difficult. It took Wooks 2 days to beat it, you know? Like that's crazy.
Wooks isn't a great benchmark though because he's Wooks. But
Yeah,
I know
but
what you mean. Yeah,
still like
2 days.
if Wooks
Yeah.
takes 2 days, like the average player is taking 2 years to beat it,
Oh,
you know? So
100%. Yeah.
So, you know, and I think just the disparity between like if you're just comparing fight caves to Inferno, like that is so wildly different. Like they're very similar in the wave based system, but like fire caves, I mean, if you just get a 70 defense, you can just tank all the range hits if you want. Just run in
Right.
there, blow pipe the mages, like it's whatever. So I think just that large leap to the next thing really scared a lot of people. And for years, I mean, because, Inferno came out 2017, for years, so many people that were actually, that had the stats and probably even had potentially the gear, maybe minus a Tebow, to go for the Inferno, just didn't. They just never even stepped in there because it was so intimidating to step in.
Oh yeah.
So if there had been something like some middle ground in between the fight caves and the Inferno, something to give people a little bit more confidence before stepping in the Inferno, that would have taught them. I think that really would have helped. And honestly, Inferno coming out really scared a lot of people. Like that was like a legitimate like brain stop for a lot of people. Like at that point,
Oh yeah.
people genuinely had decided like, nope, I'm gonna stay in my lane till the end of time now. When any new piece of content came out, because the very next year TOB came out, and people were super intimidated by that too. And it was almost like as soon as Inferno and TOB came out, there was just this gap of like all the people that will never participate in this stuff and have decided to, and then the people that are now just gonna soar because they decided to take that leap and just go crazy. So, you know, you just have insane PVMers at this point that decided not to be scared of it and just do it. And none of them were good at the beginning. That's the other thing. Like these people that are good at
Oh
PVM
yeah.
did not start out that way. They just decided to fail a bunch of times until they got it down. So, yeah, it's interesting though.
100%. I think, yeah, to that's a great point. I think like if I were to condense it into a sentence, I'd say that we're still suffering from a state of shock, you know, like they slapped they went like full hog all the way to the wall with Inferno, and everyone was like, nope, I no longer like high level content. And then we kind of just grouped high level content into this one like amorphous blob, and like you said, we split down the middle and we were like, nope, I'm staying in my lane, as you put it. And I love what you said about the you have to, you know, you died a ton. Like it, I think that's probably part of the issue too, right? It's because you see these content creators upload a video and no one uploads the 75 deaths that they had. They upload the winning run. And so you go onto YouTube and you go to look at someone who has beaten the Inferno, and all you see is accomplishments. You don't see the hundreds of deaths beforehand. And you know, that that's the other thing, and we kind of get into the philosophical side of gaming here is, to an extent, some of the high level stuff is work, right? Like
Yeah.
my first Inferno cape, my only Inferno cape right now, took me 6 months, and I did not obviously sit down and grind out 8 hours a day, like a complete non-showering degenerate, and just go, I'm sitting here until I have my cape and I'm done. I used I used the online Inferno like wave simulator. I figured out how that worked and spent like, if I didn't have time to play that day, but I found myself with like 15 minutes of time, I would be like, okay, let's practice wave 63 a couple of times, you know, or the Zuck simulator by Guy Luigi. I would, you know, if I have 9 minutes but don't have a full hour, I'm going to go practice the Zuck fight, you know, and even on those simulators, I died over and over and over again. And so I'm sure a lot of people ask themselves, you know, is +4 strength worth the amount of work that it takes? Because at a certain point, I mean, yeah, I get it. If you're working towards something, for some people, that's probably just not fun. You know, for some people, they don't want to work at a game, and I find that respectable, you know. But I do think that you know, if you want an Inferno cape and you're willing to put in the work, then it's 100% doable. I I see so many people doubt themselves and think, no, it's content only for the high level community. It's not content for me. I can't do it. I want it, but I can't do it, and that's just not the case. I don't think there's tools out there to help.
There are, and it's amazing the community that we have that will freely create simulators, resources, spreadsheets,
I know.
DPS calculators. The wikis maintained very, very nicely. We got RuneLite, we got plugins that people are just making nonstop. Like we have it all. We are blessed.
I know, dude. There was a Soul Heritage trainer out like a day and a half after the Coliseum came out, full 3D model and everything. That's how I got my. On the same note, that's how I got my quiver. I would practice that Soul Heritage trainer, you know, 5 times before bed or some shit, just so I knew once I finally got to wave 12, we're not choking this.
Yep. It's really cool, and you're right. I mean, it does take time, and I want to also make clear, just like you were kind of making clear toward the end, it's just like, you know, there's some people that just don't want to, and that's totally fine. The problem is the people living against their conscience, where it's like they're deciding to, like they're almost gaslighting themselves into like, yeah, like of course I don't want to do this,
100%.
but they do deep down want to. They're like, you know, just holding it back. They don't want to admit to themselves that they actually do want it. But I will fully admit, there are people that truly don't care. And that's another thing. That's another story. But for those players like myself, I mean, when Inferno came out, as much as I would have absolutely just loved to have an Inferno cape, I put myself into that category of nope, I'm never going for this. This is way too hard. I wasn't ready for it at the time, but a year later, I had a T-bow. Like I could do it, and that's when I decided, you know what? I want to be a Giga Chat on this game. Like I
I
want to,
want to be a
because
big boy.
yeah, and this was just a year after the Inferno came out, so we're talking right before Taub release, and I got my Infernal cape. So then on an Iron Man, having an Infernal cape was a major flex, and it was a real fucking treat to just be able to slay and just bank stand and stuff on Infernal Cave. I mean, you feel so great, and the confidence boost you get from, in particular, an Infernal Cape. I don't think any other piece of maybe a quiver can help as well. But if you have a quiver, you probably have an Infernal Cape. Getting an Infernal Cape though is just the biggest confidence boost to yourself to be able to go raid and go learn some crazy method that maybe God Wars methods that you thought were maybe going to be way too intense. But now you're like, oh, wait, I can do the Inferno. I could probably do all these other things because surely they're not as hard. And that's what really gets you to start just nose diving into the game more and more. And then that's where like the love comes, where you're just like, I want to get better. I want to keep learning. And that's where RuneScape is like at its maximum fun, in my opinion.
100%, man. And like, I kind of was wishy-washy on whether I should get the Infernal Cape as well, because uh, like, I I'm the whole point is middle age maxing. It's not like I'm really going to be this super. I don't plan to have 1,000 Tob KC ever in my life. I don't want to be the super high level hardcore guy. It's just do I really need that on my back? And I eventually made the decision. Yeah, we should do it. There's no reason I can't. It might take 6 months. It might take a year, but I can do it if I put the time in. It's something that I want to do, and there's a certain like switch that flips at some point where you just start to get it, like you start to feel the ticks, you start to understand off ticking, and you start to really get the underlying mechanics of the game. And this is kind of the shame of it is I think I want to max so I can go back into the Inferno is what I want to do.
Yep.
One, I'm tired of the comments of how much did you pay Pink Clay. I'm tired of that comment, but I also like that was like the most engaged I've been in any RuneScape content ever. Did I have to learn some esoteric mechanics of how RuneScape functions? Yes. Did I have to put in some work? Yes. Is it fucking amazing to play? 100%, man. The Inferno is great content, but there's that one stigma and two that hurdle of having to actually put the work in, and it's man, once I was over that hill, like I am so excited to hop back in there and start doing it again. Especially with the Slayer helmet, that should be a lot of fun. I hear it's a lot more breezy when you have a task, but
It is
it's just,
fun.
I believe it. I'm excited. No more nibbler chasing. But it's just, it's such a shame that, and this is I wouldn't want it to be easier ever. But it's just the shame that like there's that stigma and there's that level of commitment that you have to have before you can actually get into the content. But once you're there, man, oh, I highly recommend it for anyone who's on the fence. Just get in there and start dying to the Inferno. It's so much fun once you get over it.
That's it. It really is just get in there and die a bunch. Just jump
100%.
in, because a lot of people haven't even jumped in. So let's oh, sorry, did you have any last words on that?
Yeah, I was just gonna I was gonna hit home the points of you will die. Even
Yes.
the great content creators. No Monkey, I like watching No Monkey a lot. When I catch his streams in the evenings when I can, and when he records a new Inferno guide, he still dies. Like
Mm-hmm.
even on live stream when he goes to record a new Inferno guide, sometimes he messes up and still dies. And if No Monkey, the face of the HLC for content creators, is still dying at the Inferno, you should not be ashamed to die either.
Yeah.
Everyone does it.
Yeah, no, that's a big thing. As Winston Churchill once said, this is actually a quote that I had seen. It was in like I don't know where I saw it. Maybe it was like a college textbook or something like that. I saw it maybe on a poster or something, but Winston Churchill said, success is going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. And I read that while I was grinding the Inferno, like during that like 12-day span. And that kept my head up. I was like, okay, you know what? It really is. Don't give up. Just keep failing. You'll get it.
Ain't
So,
that the truth?
so let's talk a little bit about Varlamore 2 that actually just came out 2 days ago. Varlamore Part 2. I did just take a glimpse at your recent upload of you doing Varlamore agility. That's the only thing I have done actually with Varlamore Part 2 so far. So I was, and they've made some nice updates. Apparently, termites, you can now just trade in 100 for 100 amulets. So for Iron Man, that's kind of nice. It used to cost 200 termites for that one pack of
I
amulets.
thought that was steep.
It
Yeah.
was so steep, yeah. So now it's at a reasonable price, and that bone squirrel though, I want that. If I ever get a fucking giant squirrel.
It's funny you say that, man. I had COVID a couple of weeks ago, and um, I was doing. I can say it now because my video is going to be out in an hour and 20 minutes here. But I was doing a foot pedal method for agility. The Jagex has kind of patched some of the stuff, kind of haven't. It's been known for years. Theoatrix has a guide on it. A bunch of other people have uploaded, but you can, like with detached camera or with some obstacle courses, if you want it super slow XP, you can just put your mouse over an obstacle course or a agility shortcut and then just foot pedal to your heart's content. And that's what I was doing beforehand. But I figured since I was sick and I really want to get agility done with, I'll go do RD rooftop for the first time in my life. And I had a video of George Carlin up on the second monitor. I was sitting back watching him blowing my nose. I did maybe like 150 laps of the RD course and I got the giant squirrel. And I was laughing my ass off because I foot pedaled agility for probably I think from 83 to 97, and then the
Jesus.
first
And
course I
that's no
did.
pet chance, right? Doing the foot pedaling, I'm imagining.
Correct.
Yep.
Yep. No, 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 no pet chance. And so I felt obligated once the Varlamore thing came out because I don't think they announced the Squirrel Transmog previously. That was brand new news the morning of. Is that correct?
No,
Or
no,
did I
no.
miss
They
it?
they they had released it. It was during the we're trying to, I think it was the Summer Summit actually where they released it. Or maybe it was just the blog post immediately after.
Maybe. Okay.
So
Then I
it
missed
wasn't
it then,
day of,
but
but yeah, it was at the very, very bottom of the blog post. So if you didn't read the entire thing, you didn't see it.
okay, that would be why then. Yeah. So no, I since I had the squirrel, I said, fuck it, let's do it. And I did like 150k XP at the Varlamore thing the day of release.
Got it.
And I got the squirrel. It's very creepy looking, man. It was a well done transmog. I do like it.
It's really
Just in time
cool.
for Halloween.
Yeah, no, I have like almost 40 mil agility on my main iron, and still
Jeez,
no
man.
giant squirrel. And then on this account, I'm approaching 3 mil. So one day, I did get Groot on the hardcore group, so that was cool because I'm almost 70 mil farming on my main iron. Never got Groot, so that's cool.
Jeez, man.
Yeah. So what? So how many pets are you at?
Let's take a peek here. I'm at Infernal Eels on the second monitor. We'll pull her up.
I'm just running some Relica right now because we need Marks of Grace for Stams on the team. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I've just
I'm at
yeah, go for it.
I'm at 10 out of 62 right now, which honestly ain't half bad
That
now that I'm
ain't
looking at it.
for maxing, yeah, for trying to max.
Yeah.
Like that's because after like post max, that's when you can really start pet hunting if you care to.
Yeah, I got a lot of dupes too, and I'll just send this to you. I have two
see.
Nexlings, two TOA pets, and two Rock Golem. I know I got one at Motherload Mine. I don't know where the second one came from because I wasn't paying attention, obviously. But I had the Shooting Stars and Motherload Mine for that dupe Rock Golem. And then, yeah, two Nexlings and two Tumekins Guardians.
That's crazy. Yeah. What do you think you're gonna do after max? Do you think you're gonna pet hunt? Are you gonna clog or anything, or just raid?
I don't know. I'm stuck between the two. Like I said, I really would like to get more into high level content and kind of show that even as a busy bee, full-time job, family, and all that stuff, you can still enjoy the very end of the game. And I think with that, I probably would like to green log a bunch of stuff. TOA, I think, would probably be the first thing that I would go and green log, given that it was the raid that made my account. I have 6 wards, 10 fangs, 10 light bearers, and no Masori mask, so I need to go back and grab that.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about just you don't have much time to play, it sounds like. You have a kid and a wife, I presume, and
Yep.
you're working, you have to provide for a family now, but you're still finding time to play and also upload videos. How do you manage that? And for those that feel like their life is super chaotic, they got a bunch going on, but they would love to do some sort of content creation, how have you balanced that? And what do you have any advice for people that would like to do that?
100%. Yeah. So I will say that I am in a bit of a luckier situation. I do work from home. Now that obviously doesn't mean I'm playing video games all day while I work from home. But like I said with the foot pedaling agility thing, I had the luxury of putting a laptop underneath my desk and foot pedaling for 8 hours while I worked. But with as far as content creation is concerned, I mean my videos are, I don't know, 10 to 20 minutes a piece once a week. And what I do is I have OBS open. I have it's called Shadow Play, or it's Replay Buffer in OBS. I have Replay Buffer open, which just you can set an arbitrary amount of time for how much into the past you want OBS to capture. And if something cool happens, or if I feel like I have an opinion, I hit the asterisk key, or the tilde key, excuse me, on my keyboard, and it captures the last 60 seconds of whatever happened in RuneScape. And so it's not a lot that happens at a time. It's, if I have something interesting that happens during that minute, I capture it, and then I just stitch them together, a day before I upload. And so, in fairness, a good amount of my content it's not dense. I have been videos out there where it's just like, all right, I got half a fishing level this week, and most of it was just me talking, talking about maybe what update had happened this week, or I learned something new about this. And shit, half the time I'm not even talking about RuneScape. I'm kind of just rambling at the mic. Just I and maybe this isn't a great mindset to have, but I enjoy video games as like a spare time thing. But as I grow older, I kind of feel the need to justify some of my hobbies, and so I thought I may as well monetize playing RuneScape, and it's not like I'm certainly not making enough to live off of, only getting a couple thousand views per video, but I just thought record what you do, throw it on YouTube. And that's really as simple as it gets for content creation. You don't have to have the most interesting thing out there. You don't have to have the most highly edited. You don't have to pay a guy for thumbnails. To your point earlier that we were talking about how there's so many content creators out there who have like under 1,000 subs for RuneScape, and just people that you've never heard of before. I see some of these guys who are, only have like 1,000 subs, and they're paying for a high quality thumbnail every single video, and I'm like, man, that can't be cheap to do that for every single video that you upload. But getting kind of rambly here, but the point is I mean, shit, just record what you play, man. Stitch it together. DaVinci Resolve is super high quality editing software. It's completely free. Go download that, and OBS is obviously free. Stitch your stuff together. And then
Yeah.
the final thing too, similar to what you do sometimes, Sae Bae. I mean, sometimes I just have an opinion about the game, and I just hit record and I yell at my microphone like a crazy old man for 15 minutes, and then I go in and quickly edit out where I'm like breathing deeply into the mic or any weird background noise, and then slap it on YouTube with a quick thumbnail made in GIMP.
Those are, yeah, I use GIMP as well still. GIMP's the boy.
Yeah.
I love that.
Adobe's not getting any of my money, man. Adobe can fuck right off.
The problem is like I've just learned how to use GIMP really like proficiently now. So like
Oh yeah,
relearning or just like learning a new program is just that's too much effort for me. So
can't be fucked,
GIMP's been
man.
doing the job. GIMP I've even made GIF emotes on GIMP. It's great. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's really there's a lot
it's
of
got
really good open source software out there, man.
yeah, there really is. Um, No, but that really is like my favorite type of content. It's just talking, it's just rambling, talking with somebody else about RuneScape. That really is the niche I fell into, and I just love it. So there always is so much to do. Like you said, I mean, if you want just the classic route of just making videos on your progress, that's one thing, and what you recommended is great. But ultimately, I mean, hey, there is the world's your oyster. You can do whatever you want for content creation, whatever you enjoy and are passionate about. That's ultimately what's going to be the best route to go down. But
Oh yeah, I who's the gal who does Implings only? Is that her actual name?
impling
Is she
only.
just
Yeah,
Implings?
impling
Is
only.
okay? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
look at me go. Way to go, dude. Um, yeah, no, I mean she. I've only watched a couple of her videos, but as the name would imply, her account is based off of Implings only. She really enjoys catching Implings and opening the jars, and I mean, fuck it, more power to her, man. And she, I don't know what her metrics look like, but she nets in a good amount of views every single video. It's just do what you like, throw it on the internet. Maybe people will like it, maybe people won't. You know, it's
Yep.
just it's the way it
But
goes.
for the most part, people will like. I mean, you will always find people that like your content, no matter what
Oh
you
yeah,
make. The
oh
internet's
yeah,
massive. You will find people. I promise.
exactly.
So,
Even if it's just like a couple hundred people, you know, one of my favorite content creators, and I wanted to make sure that I said this, and I recommend that you try and pull him into your show if you can at some point. I'd love to hear his brain. But his name is Reynolds. Do you know who he is?
no.
He's got like 3,000 subs. He's been making videos for like 6 or 7 years, I think. And he's just super, super, super high level. But his favorite content that he does is like really, really high level TOA stuff. You know, like the tick perfect 540s that are done in 30 minutes and just crazy, crazy good at that. And then he also does a ton, now that Coliseum is out, does a ton of Coliseum content. And it just, the way he talks is just very down to earth, very easy. Like he's crazy good. Like one of the best, I mean, maybe not Port Kazard level, but like he is way up there in efficiency. And he's just, the way he explains things is like, he's talking to the layman. And it's just, if he doesn't like go out of his way to make high flashy thumbnails or clickbait or do anything to grow his audience, he just enjoys doing TOA and enjoys doing Coliseum, man. He records it, tosses it on the internet, and even though he only gets like maybe like 50 people per stream or like maybe a couple thousand views per video, it's what he enjoys to do, and I got a lot of fucking respect for that. It's really, really neat to see. Like how many different niches there are in the game and how you can always find an audience that is going to want to watch that niche.
Yep. Earlier, you were just saying, you like just pulling up the mic and just rambling about stuff. Are there any hot takes you have on the game
Yeah.
that you've shared and maybe are maybe unpopular?
I did an Araxor video a little while back, which was poorly received. Which I don't regret what I said. I definitely clickbaited the shit out of the title, and so that's my own fault. But the gist of what I rambled about and talked about was how, as a main, as someone who only plays for like an hour a day, it is kind of disappointing whenever content comes out. And this is the same thing that will apply to like Huey or what is it, Amoxliatal. You know, it's really kind of sad as a main player when content is released that is effectively dead on arrival. And that's not me saying there should never be middle game content added to the game ever again, obviously. But, there's, and this is I want to make a video on this kind of talking about it because, like, you look at World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14 as an MMO, and you have, like, two groups of people. You have the people who do PVM and the people who do PvP. And in like Final Fantasy 14, apparently PvP is pretty non-existent. So you just have, you level up your character, you get to the end, you do the end game content. RuneScape is in such an odd position, and I would not want to be Jagex, where we have the Iron Man community and the Ultimate Iron Man community and the high level community and the free to play only community and the implings only, and there are so many niches of people and there's so many different demographics that Jagex has the seemingly impossible task of trying to put out enough content to keep all these different groups happy. There's weeks out there where they do an update and it's geared towards quality of life for UIM, or it's geared towards quality of life for Iron Men, and you hear the high level community be like, well, we've never gotten updates, we don't get enough updates. Or then you'll see an update come out that is geared towards fixing up the high level community, or adding in new content for HLC, and you'll hear complaints about that. And then there's a PvP update, and everyone goes, we hate those PKers. Why are we doing quality of life for the wilderness? Dead content, whatever. And it seems so hard to balance as Jagex. We don't have just, okay, you level up your character to max level and you fight raids. RuneScape's not like that. RuneScape has, I'm not going to say too many because I love the game and I love that there's all this different stuff we can do, but they've got a lot of people to talk to, a lot of people who play the game in different ways, and a lot of people to kind of cater towards, and it's a very unique situation. And so, my hot take is that, at least right now, personally, I think there's a lot of middle game stuff coming out. A lot of mid game bosses, a lot of the Scuriouses and the Hueys and the Axiotals and the and granted we just got Colosseum, but I think we need a little bit more love towards the end game is my personal, maybe that's pretty lukewarm, I don't know. But that's my current hot take, is that I think that HLC is getting clowned on just a little bit too much as of late, and we do need, a Raids 4 or a new Fasani's Nightmare or something for them to chew on.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's wouldn't be a hot take on Twitter, at least the people I follow, because that's what everybody's just been demanding is more endgame stuff. And I don't think I ever held on to that take super tight. I do remember, it making a lot more sense when I was playing my endgame Iron, where it's like you get any mid-game content, and it's like, okay, let me just do this for the clog or whatever, just to do some testing. Over, right? Yeah. Yep. But I've always been a player that's like, we got to balance this game. That's always been my biggest take from this game. Like, the thing I want the most in this game is for balance across the board, for quality of life to be brought to all ends of the game, to standardize menus, to standardize, just a bunch of things and make the game feel very complete. And I think that's actually what Jagex has been low-key doing on the side, is really hitting that. And playing a hardcore group, as you've seen me do, it's definitely removed somewhat, it's removed some of my jadedness to the end game, and I'm really starting to recognize how important these mid game updates are and the reasons that they're bringing out certain things. Although I'm totally sympathetic to the high level community really wanting end game stuff. The thing is like with the high-end community, the high-level community, they play the game more than any other group of players, clearly, because they're the 100%. High level. So they're the ones that are the neats and everybody else. So, you come out with a piece of content that's 200 hours to complete or something, where if you introduced anything for 200 hours for mid-game, they're going to be happy for a year. If you come out with that for the high-level community, they're dissatisfied after a week. They're just because they already did it. They just fucking no-lifed the game, went efficiency mode, ulted the hell out of it. Just did whatever they could to min-max it to the extreme. So there's just so much more that they need to do to cater toward that high-level community, because they just play so much more than any other subgroup. So,
100%, 100%, and I'll say this again to cover my back in the comment section before I go in here, but most people who play RuneScape is not the high level community. It is not the hardcore group Ironmans. It is not even the Ironmans. Probably the average. I'd like to see statistics on this, but I imagine, at least when I picture the average guy who plays RuneScape, he picks it up with his buddies for a couple of months at a time. He plays a main account. He's never seen a 99. Or maybe he's seen like 99 strength or 99 hit points, but
Fire making.
he is what fire. Yeah, he got 99 in a winter Todd one day, but the average Joe Schmo is not you. It is not me. It is not the high level community. It is not Inklings only. It is that middle game. It is where the Scuriouses are needed, or the Huey Codals are needed, or the Axley. I was doing so well. Axleotls are needed. All these mid game stuff. It does cater towards them. What I think, the high and I could be wrong. Again, I'm not a high level community player, but when I think of like what the HLC needs to chew on, it's not necessarily something with like 200 hours, but it's something that needs depth. The content can be completed in X amount of hours. You can get to the end of Colosseum in whatever amount of time that you need. But I think what people are annoyed with is like the lack of new things to do to improve or to change or to mix things up, to really sit there and gnaw. And I think that's why Cox is so loved. And like I use this example all the time. Fasani's Nightmare, to figure out the content, you you know it's an annoying and long boss for a lot of folks, but once you figure out the content, it can be done perfectly. And for a lot of folks, great, you've done it perfectly. You know the boss, right? And I feel like that's where a lot of HLC guys are like, okay, this is the efficient way to do it. We're done. But if you look at like, for example, the who is he? I think his name is Smork something thousand on
3,000.
YouTube. 3,000. Thank you. Yeah, Smork 3,000 on YouTube. He has to my knowledge, the world record for Fasani's Nightmare, and his inventory has one super combat, two sand fuse, and then the rest is random items throughout the game. It's obviously a ham joint, it's a web weaver, it's a dragon halberd. He's got two pieces of Torva for a switch. He's got a blowpipe. He's got one of basically every item in the entire game, because there are certain things that you can do. There's different ways that you can react when things come out. You don't always know what Fasani is going to do, but you can react perfectly. And there's so many ways to speed it up. And he slaps Fasani around in 6 minutes and 6 seconds, I want to say. I'm going to go check that, but I'm not going to check it. It's really fast is what it is. And there's that amount of depth that you can do with something like that. And Fasani's been around for ages, and I think he got that speed run just like a year or so ago. But I think that's where a lot of the high level community is frustrated. And again, I'm not part of them. I can't really speak for them, but I do kind of understand. Is like there's a difference between like making content that there's a certain way to complete it, and then once you've completed it and gotten good at completing it, you're done, versus a piece of content where there's a lot of different ways to complete it. The Inferno is a great example of depth too, and I'm sure you know that. I don't need to tell you that. You can beat the Inferno, you can do it damageless, great. You can be done for a lot of people, but for the high level community, and I'm just using speedrunning as an example. It's not a perfect example, but you look at Dear Lola, right? He did it with a bronze halberd, right? I think there's so many different ways you can complete that content and do that content, versus here's a hard piece of content that you'll finish in 100 hours, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. And yeah, no, it makes sense. And I was actually kind of surprised that they didn't. Well, I would say in hindsight, I'm not surprised, but I was kind of anticipating for the Summer Summit just recently for them to release, or for them to announce at least a raid 4.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe actually for RuneFest in March, they'll probably talk about raids 4. I would imagine they would probably announce something along those lines,
That's where my money's at.
to satisfy that high level community. At least just give them a taste of something that they can look forward to.
I hope so, because at least me personally, that's the content I enjoy watching. I have my one quiver and I have my one infernal cape, and I will get more eventually throughout the course of my lifetime. But for me personally, it's so fun to watch Port Khazard or Gnome or, like I said, Reynolds or like Proudest Dad. Any of these high level guys just demolish stuff. It's so you learn so much just passively by watching them too.
Yeah.
I really enjoy them.
So sailing's most likely going to be coming out. It's not absolutely guaranteed. They're going to run some betas and stuff like that. Do you have any thoughts on sailing? Obviously, there's feelings going either way of really looking forward to it or really being repelled by it. So, where do you stand?
First off, from a business standpoint, I would be incredibly surprised if they canned it this far in. Even after the betas and hearing things, I would be incredibly shocked if it was poorly received and they're like, yeah, well, to the team who just worked on it for a year, we're throwing it in the trash can.
Yeah.
So I'm fairly certain that it's coming out regardless. As far as opinions, I don't know. I didn't vote for sailing. Personally, I was on Team Shamanism, but I wasn't even really a huge fan of that either. Skills are so weird in RuneScape, because you have the combat stuff that makes sense, fine and good. Slayer, everyone's favorite, right? Unlocks bosses and you do certain stuff. Crafting makes sense. Smithing starts to kind of make sense, but then you get shit like fire making and wood cutting and you know fishing kind of has its uses. And again, as an Ironman, you obviously use all of this a lot more, but as a main especially, there's so many skills that are just like, well, we're 99 now, there's zero use for this, it's not necessary anymore. And they don't really interact with each other either. There's no crafting, and well, I guess birdhouses technically, but I was gonna say crafting and hunter, but there's no like crafting and cooking thing that goes together. There's no like smithing and herb lore. There's no like defense and mining that goes together. For the most part, you have the combat skills, you have the gathering skills, you have the crafting skills. My worry with sailing is how they've pitched it is they want sailing to affect everything. They want sailing to have combat. They want sailing to have, different crafting on the ship. They want sailing to have you go to these different islands and there's resources to gather. It feels to me like sailing isn't one of these individual skills. It's I don't want to use the buzzword and call it a mini game because that's what everyone says, right? But it certainly feels more. It certainly feels more like they want this skill to have so much more weight than any of the other skills. And me personally, I would have liked to see like some more love thrown to the other skills before we dived into something new and huge like this. But I'm certainly not against it. I mean, they'll release the beta. They'll say, "Hey, take a look at this," and we'll either love it or hate it. Probably I'll vote yes to it, and it'll pop into the game here. I'm not going to log into my 10 accounts and try and vote no or anything. I'm not disgruntled or put off by it. It just seems like weird to toss all these resources into a new skill right now is kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, it's a very, very massive project. I've talked to JMods about it. I've been able to see a little bit, behind the scenes, and just it's interesting. It's just such a massive project. Like, just the movement in
I
general
know.
is so fucking big of a project and so difficult to perfectly just nail down. And so that, I mean, the betas are going to be about navigating, like, still. And we're gonna, if that doesn't feel absolutely seamless, that's going to be a huge issue. Like, that's not going
Yeah,
to
they're gonna
be
get eaten
great.
alive, man.
It's not going to be
I
good. Yeah.
yeah.
So I'm mostly worried about that. The idea, like the concept of sailing. I remember the early Sae Bae cast with BC Guppy. We were talking about sailing. We were ideating about it, and I was just over the moon about thinking the fantasies about sailing, just everything in my head about how cool it could be. But then you actually start seeing it in game, and it's like, whoa, okay, like this is really like you really got to nail this to make it feel good, because that's
Yep.
with old school things have to feel good. That's a big thing that people honestly don't I don't think I don't think people give it enough credit for the way things feel in game. And if it feels good to sail, then we have something good. And then at that point, everything can branch off and it's going to be great. But if you don't hit that first point of navigating the seas and making that feel absolutely flawless, there's going to be some problems, because that's where you're going to spend most of the time on the boat. And again, in my head, this is my own problem, by the way. So, but I need to speak a little bit on this, because when I thought of sailing, I thought of exploring new islands, randomly generated islands, potentially monsters in the sea, randomly generated monsters and other slayer creatures and stuff. It was nothing about actually trimming the sails on a fucking ship. That was the last thing on my mind. So when I thought about sailing, it was just, I want to travel my boat and explore some crazy cool things, which wouldn't require a skill. It just required having a boat. But sailing now, I mean, they're really trying to capture the essence of sailing, which is maintaining your ship, picking up fucking cargo and shit. There's tough wind, so turn your sails this way. Like, that was not on my mind whatsoever when I thought of sailing. So again,
do your chores, dude.
they could somehow navigate this perfectly, and it's just a flawless update, and I would pray for that. That's what I ultimately want. But I am a bit concerned that that's not going to be how it feels, just because of the certain engine limitations and stuff. But again, if they do it, I'm super happy. I'm trying not to be a doomer. In fact, I wasn't a doomer for a while until I started seeing some of the updated traveling systems. Because as most people know, I am a player who's very vocal about the feeling of stuff. I want gameplay loops to feel really smooth and excellent and feel fun. And if that's not how it is, I'm concerned. So that's my thoughts.
I don't think this. I made this comment in my kind of review of the Summer Summit, but I don't think those. I'm a software developer by trade, and I don't think those back end guys get enough credit. You know, the ones who work on the feel of the navigation, or not even developers, but the guys in the back rooms who are working on like how the game feels, what the systems are, how that cycle goes. You know, we see a lot of the design team or the popular JMuds out front during summer summits and stuff talking about that. And I remember, I don't know which JMud it was, but he was working on like the engine development for mobile. It wasn't the young guy with the curly hairs. It was the older guy, and he just had bags under his eyes, man. Like, he just sunk it in, and you're like, "Fuck, that's a man carrying his team on his damn back, dude." Like, these back end developers who are working on, like you said, the feel and how things are supposed to, or the shit you don't really think about.
Yeah, like working on the ability to make the game feel good. Like, they, if there's a restriction to not make the game feel good, they have to be the one that figures out how to get to the point where you can make it feel good, which is awful.
I know. Yeah. I know. And they don't get enough credit, man. They don't get enough screen time. Shout out to anyone who's working in the background there at JagX. We love you.
That's a great shout out. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, you recommended, or you said like you were probably most leaning on shamanism of the three, and not really even that attached to it. Shamanism was a terrifying route, in my opinion, to go down, just simply because
really
shamanism, and I think I said this on a different cast, shamanism was a concept I'm pretty sure before they had even really scrapped Ruinous Powers, which was going to be the new prayer book. And I think we have these. We want to believe that it's going to be really cool to come out with a new prayer book. You just think of the concept, new prayer book. That's the same thing I did with sailing. The concept of sailing sounds amazing to me. The concept of a new prayer book sounded amazing to me. And then you actually start implementing it and doing beta tests, and you're like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is so hard to balance. This is so hard to balance. You have to, you can't just have an entirely new prayer book, because there's so many prayers that are so useful in a lot of places where people have designed metas around. For example, redemptioning. So you can't just scrap redemption on this new prayer book. So anyway, there's so many examples of this, and trying to balance it without just making it an overpowered prayer book, which you're permanently going to use, is almost an impossible task. And with shamanism, we didn't even get to explore shamanism, but in my opinion, it was just going to be a bunch of attachment scape things where, do you want to really be efficient on your raid? Okay, well, you're going to have to bring this Torva with these 3 imbues, with this new set effect, with this new shamanistic potion that you're going to be casting every 5 seconds. Just a bunch of
Yep.
shit that nobody actually wants, but the concept of it, the concept of shamanism sounds great because it's power creep for a lot of people, that they just love that. But then when you start going into the details, you can't overcomplicate the RuneScape combat system. It just gets too overwhelming. It's not fun anymore.
Yep.
It's fun for
It's
the
just chores.
0.01% of players that want that. But other than that, it's just complex and it's needless.
Yeah, and I kind of said that with the sailing too. Like it's hard to make a new skill without it feeling like chores. You know, with
Yep.
shamanism, it would have been power creep, where you, like you said, you have to bring the 3 imbues of the shamanistic potion or whatever new shit they come up with. You know, with sailing, we can't just have it be explore around an island, because then it's basically a mini game. We have to have you working on it somehow. So what about, cargo or working on the sails? And that's the other thing too. You know, is like, how do you, and it's not it's I would never want to be a game developer. It's how do you create new things, especially in a game with RuneScape, like where you have 13 million XP to go to in a skill, like without shit becoming tedious, without it becoming like, because I could even see the same thing happening like you just described with shamanism to sailing, right? Maybe there's an island that everyone has to go to and it has a certain item on it that, well, now before I can go and do TOA efficiently, I have to get, 78 sailing so that I can unlock this island, so that I can get this item that is locked behind that island.
Yeah.
I it's scope. It's not an isolated skill. It's a skill that would touch every. It reminds me of summoning, right? You remember when summoning came out back in the
I
old
actually
game?
wasn't. I played from 2004 to 2007, and then I quit for 8 years. So I
Oh,
actually
really?
never ever touched summoning once.
Oh, damn. Okay. Well, then, yeah. This is my fear, because when summoning came out, suddenly you had to do everything with summoning, right? Every boss you had a fucking pack yak, because it was like a portable bank, or a portable second inventory. It was your alt that you would have, right?
Hmm.
You can't go and do skilling properly without having X amount of summon pet, because it gives you a boost to your log rate or whatever. You can't go and do it. It affected every other thing, and that's, I guess, my worry, is that this isn't an isolated skill that maybe has like one or two other skills that it touches. This is going to be something that touches everything else. And that,
Yep,
to me, is why it becomes hard to balance.
you're totally right. Yeah, it's a long-winded process as well. I mean, I think that it's crazy because we think about early last year when they were first starting like sailing development, and there were actually people thinking that it was going to come out in late 2024 potentially, and like we're not even going to see a beta till 2025. And
Fuck no.
I
Yeah.
I would honestly say if sailing truly does get to the point where it's coming out, like it's passed every poll and everything, and it's coming out. I genuinely would not expect it until like May of 2027 at this point. I like seriously, like I could
Wouldn't
actually,
surprise me.
that actually sounds like a reasonable time frame for it to fully release.
Yeah, no. And especially if they don't want to have, and this isn't me ragging on Jagex, this is just how game development works, like you see a lot of the time bosses are released or new updates are released with Jagex, and then they immediately get a wave of community feedback, and they're like, okay, we have updates for it the week afterwards, right?
Hmm.
And with something as big as sailing, maybe we'll, like, if they really want to have a release that goes off without a hitch, without having that wave of input, it is going to take more polls. It's going to take more communication with the community. It's going to take more beta tests. And like you said, I don't think 2027, early 2027 is unrealistic at all. I think that is probably a pretty damn good metric. Maybe a little bit sooner, but honestly, depending on the amount of polls and beta testing and all that, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, we'll see, man. The cool thing is that the team does seem to be very careful about things. We've seen it recently. Varlamore Part 2, they've made a bunch of updates to it just this morning with a blog post, and some are coming out next week. Some already hit the live game. But, a lot of people, due to the past of Jagex's update history, where something would come out and just immediately busted and everyone's just abusing it for a week until it gets, you know, patched or just nerfed down to, you know, bare bones. But nowadays we're seeing the opposite effect where things actually come out and they're dead on release because they're not as good as people had hoped or people had wanted. And so
Right.
you end up actually seeing the opposite where waiting longer is actually a benefit rather than immediately jumping into the content day one and trying to abuse the hell out of it. So it's funny how that's working. And I actually think, in my opinion, that's a healthier route to go down is make it's obviously it would be best to just be perfectly balanced on release, but I think it would be better to be dead on release than busted on release, like actually busted, like game breaking on release. So it's kind of interesting. And they do communicate pretty quickly about it all, and they listen to all the feedback, they gather it carefully, and they make appropriate changes. So the future of the game, you know, because 2027, it's like, holy shit, I'm going to be 32. And like that's just so crazy. I'll still be playing this game,
I
probably
don't
no
know.
lifing it still. And the cool thing is I do like, there's nothing in the back of my head that's saying, oh, the game might be dead by then, because I really do trust the team. That's a really good feeling to
Oh
have.
yeah. No, as far as MMOs go, the RuneScape is we're not going to wake up tomorrow and the game's going to be dead. We're in a very very good situation.
Let's have you touched any of the combat achievements? What are your thoughts on combat achievements? Have you dived into those? Is that one of your plans for after max at all, or what?
I'm glad you brought that up because yeah, I do really want that master health. I'm about 360 points away from it, so I'm not too far off. Most of those points are locked behind raids in the Inferno right now, so I'll have to go and put on my HLC pants. I I like the concept. I hate the execution. I think Gnome was talking about this on his stream a couple of days ago about what the definition of perfect is, you know, for like perfect kills.
Mm-hmm.
I half agree, kind of fully agree. It's really hard to quantify what achievements are, you know, like he used the example of bloat, which I agree with, but I think when we like try and like define perfect, or this goes back to the discussion of depth, you know, when you try and say, hey, you should do something this way, or the boss should be, you know, this counts as a perfect kill. It kind of takes away from the ability to bring 26 different switches in your inventory at Fasani's Nightmare. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As far as the achievement, as far as the other achievements, besides like what constitutes perfect and whatnot, I don't know, like salamanders, really? Like that's neat, I suppose, but it doesn't feel like I achieved anything. You know, it reminds me of what I was just saying. It feels like a list of chores as opposed to like this is cool and unique. You know, I think you know the Jad challenges, of course.
Yep. Like the six
I
jab
think
challenges or fight caves?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like the six Jad challenges, like that to me is what combat achievements should be, if that makes sense. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like it should be optional and increasingly difficult things to do, you know. And I'm not saying that they need to go and start adding a bunch of content like that, but I mean like 50 kills is not an achievement. That's you just sat there for 50 kills, you know. Putting a salamander on and not dying for 13 minutes while you kill Muspa is not an achievement. That's just a chore, you know. However, you know, understanding the game ticks and how you have, I'm going to explain it wrong because I haven't done it, but there's like spaces in between the ticks for the six jads, I think, right? There's a window where like you're
Yeah,
switching, you're switching, you're
after the
switching, then you
sixth,
can
there's a
click.
2 tick window between the first and the
Yes,
sixth. Yeah.
that kind of stuff. That like tests your game knowledge and your ability to like, you know, it's a skill check. You know, I it doesn't take any practice to kill something with a salamander. It doesn't take any practice to kill something 50 times. I mean, I guess the act of killing it 50 times is your practice, but that's not a combat achievement to me. I think there's a lot of fluff in there, which makes me kind of sad. I would have much preferred like there's 100 achievements in total, and all 100 of them are something that is difficult to do, something that you'll have to go in and die like 10 times in order to really truly figure out how to do it. Not something where, you throw on full tank gear and you go melee Zilliana and that's an achievement.
Yep.
I think, yeah, that's my general take.
No, that's a yeah, no, and I do remember No Monkey kind of talking about that. It's just tough because ultimately RuneScape is just chores upon chores upon chores. I mean, that's just the name of
Isn't
the
it?
game. So I don't envy the position that developers are in. They want to create a unique list of combat achievements. I have my own gripes with combat achievements. My main gripe, and it's a hot take. I've had uh, this sentiment for years since it came out, was just the constant additions of new things. So if you achieve your Zuck helmet, you're not having it for long, and you have to keep upkeeping these
Yep.
chores endlessly. It's an endless chore
Notice
thing.
how I said I didn't want to get GM. I wanted to
Yeah.
get Master.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then master would be a great thing to just maintain. But so it's my own problem ultimately, but it was a problem for everybody until they came out with the just the new system they have, where you just get as many tasks as you want completed. You don't have to do all the easy tasks. You don't have to do all the mediums. You just choose which ones you want. And you get those levels. But that is my biggest gripe with it. Is just this endless amount of chores, and the list is ever growing. I mean, we're at 567 tasks at this point, which is a
Yep.
metric fuck ton. Like, that's so many. And I loved how they did normal achievement diaries, which I understand cannot be the same thing as combat achievements. It technically could be, but people wouldn't accept that. But achievements is great because you get your achievement diary cape, you're done. Like, if you fucking did it, it's over. You max,
Mhm.
you're done. Imagine every like 2 months the skill thing increased to, oh, it's 14 mil now to get 99, it's 15 mil now to get 99. It's like, so you have to
Yep.
every single few months have to reobtain your shit. It's just like that's obnoxious to me. Most people are fine with it. If you're going for a Zuck helmet, you're most likely just want to do that stuff. Although we do see more recently a lot of high level players just hating when the new achievements come out, because it's just like they either think they're boring or they just don't want to do them. They just want to keep their Zuck helmet. So that's my biggest concern. I don't necessarily think there's a problem with them having KC tasks. They've limited them so they're not as egregious as before. I remember when it was 150 CMs, I had only had
Yeah.
like 10 done, so I had to do 140 fucking solo CMs to get that task done. And so I don't think there's that big of a deal. And I see it differently as well now that I'm a low level account, where, oh, okay, like here's a little task I can do to bump me up to that medium or that hard potentially thing. And that's always kind of cool, just to have a little bit of fluff. Just if you're working on something, you get to go around the game exploring new monsters and stuff. But yeah, no, I mean, it's tough because if you want it to really be meaningful, you would just keep the top of the top requirements, and there probably wouldn't even be an easy, medium, or hard tier. It would just be like elite master and grandmaster or something, if you really wanted it to feel like combat achievements rather than just do a Temperos game. You get a fucking task.
Right.
It's the way you look
I'll
at
I'll
it.
meet
Yeah.
I'll meet you in the middle here, and we'll solve Jagex's problems together here. We can keep the whole the combat system as it is now, but the really advanced grandmaster tasks, aren't, they are those like really heavily intense skill based stuff. And once you get your Zuck helm, you just have it. There's no need to upkeep it, right? Because I truly think that if you completed 568 combat achievements, including some really really difficult grandmaster ones like perfect theater, and you accomplish that once, then great. Bob's your uncle. You can wear a funny Slayer helm. You can have that. You can have that. What do you call it? That trophy, that token of achievement. Because in a roundabout way, we're doing that with Infernal Cape, right? You getting your Infernal Cape a year after release was a lot harder than me getting my Infernal Cape now, and especially with people who are going to have the prayer restore potions.
Yep.
Like getting an Infernal Cape now is not nearly as big of an achievement as it was X amount of years ago. And so, in my opinion, if you hit the GM at any point in your life and you want to wear the funny Slayer hat and have the extended thrall times and the teleports, great.
Yep. No, I would honestly love that. It's tough because there's reasons why they've done it the way they did. I think as much as I hate to admit it, the system they have makes the most sense. Obviously, I hate it because I hate upkeep. I hate having to
Mhm.
do these nonstop tasks repeatedly. It seems like just endlessly, but it's tough because I think, in my opinion, the best route to go down. This is my own personal opinion. It's more selfish, but would just be to have a leniency, just have some time, have a grace period of how long you can wear it. And I was even one of those. I think I mentioned this like a year ago. Like, something they could do is have the achievements actually be programmed in before they're actually in the game. This is a weird, like, non-intuitive way to do it, but ultimately they would come out with the tasks. They would introduce them invisibly. So you could technically
Mm,
actually just already complete them, but it wouldn't show anything because you
sure.
could still have your Zuck helm. And then all of a sudden, 3 months down the line, then it's actually implemented in the game. And if you actually did all the tasks invisibly months before, and they would even show the task list, it just wouldn't be actually in the game yet. But if you did them all of a sudden you log in and, hey, you already have your Zuck helm because you did that in the last 3 months when we had it invisibly coded into the game. So you knew what the
Sure.
task list was. That is the grace period. And the reason I would even suggest that system is just for the people that would hate for there to be a grace period where you are wearing your Zuck helm, but you clearly haven't done all the tasks yet because it's in the game and you haven't done them yet. So people would find that to be odd. So the reason I would like that invisible period is because it's not actually in the game yet to get the 567 to 567. But as soon as it does launch, if you did them within the past 3 months invisibly, then boom, you already have your Zuck helm back. So it's like a grace period.
Yeah, I'm amenable to that. And I guess I don't know what the back end of RuneScape looks like at all. But from a coding standpoint, that's not unrealistic. It's the same code regardless. You just have a barrier on it. It wouldn't affect the actual combat achievements, but it would exist there.
Yeah. And again, it's not like the biggest deal ever. It's ultimately I'm going to get the backlash of, well, if you want your Zuck helm, go get your Zuck helm, and that's how it is. That's the
Go do your
system it is.
chores.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
it's whatever, but yeah, just I don't know. Maybe it's because there's perks behind it now that make it just more like you almost, going from a Zuck helm to a non-Zuck helm feels worse because there are just significant perks that you got used to and now you don't have them anymore.
hmm I was just going to ask that. I'm
Yeah.
looking at it right now. I suppose I'm answering it for myself. It's teleports mainly, right? Oh, and three Zucks.
Yeah. It's the teleports, it's the Zucks, it's the Thrall timer, it's the
Mm,
cannonball. Shoot, actually, I think that's just elite. I can't remember. There's just a lot to it, and then you can't wear your Zuck helm anymore. You can't wear your Avernic that you were just holding the day before, and you can't. There's just all this stuff, and of course, people want perks. I remember being a strong advocate for the Max Cape not to have any perks, Skill Capes not to have any perks, way back. I mean, I've kind of changed my mind on that just because I see the pros outweigh the cons ultimately when it comes to perks with things. But if there really had been combat achievements that came out that were purely aesthetics, purely cosmetic overrides, Zuck helm, then you really could achieve it once and you maintain your Zuck helm forever at that point because it doesn't really matter. And even if it was something to maintain, at least you're not losing all these perks that you've gotten used to. So that's kind of the cons of having introducing perks to all these things is losing it just feels horrible. So anyway, yeah, just rambling on about this, but
no, you're good. I'm gonna have to chew on that because I don't know that I fully agree just yet. But I definitely see the angle that you're coming
it's
from there.
it's it's not even a sentiment I truly like strongly hold. It was a sentiment I used to hold. Mainly when I cared a lot more about the integrity of like skills and stuff and not speeding things up and stuff, and this was more of the argument about the Maxscape having all these
Sure.
perks. I mean, a Maxscape is the most busted item in the entire game by a mile. It's
Oh yeah,
so
I'm excited for mine.
it's so busted, but if they had never released any perks to it, we'd be playing a totally different game where You just don't need to skill. If you don't want to be a skiller, you don't have to be a skiller, because guess what? There's no
Yeah,
incentive to do it. And that would have been a really,
exactly.
that would have almost been healthier. Now, of course, we're playing a completely different game at this point, so just imagining that is kind of hard. But there used to be a time in old school where skill capes didn't have perks and max cape wasn't even a thing. So people just did whatever the fuck they wanted, and it was great. And now,
Yeah.
oh, now there's this pressure to get your max cape before you really start raiding or before you really start PVMing, because you need to get that max cape. So now they have to make skills easier. They have to make everything a lot more. So the people that truly enjoyed skilling 8 years ago, they are now getting the easy scapification of the thing that they enjoyed, where if they didn't have any perks, they could keep skilling the same old skilling it's always been, and nobody really has to
Yeah.
interact with it besides just getting like a quest cape, which is like base 70s. So
I
I don't
think about
know.
that with
It's
other stuff too. People keep telling me to do double nats for when I do rune crafting, and I looked at that on the wiki, and like doing it the regular way is like 30k XP an hour and like 700 to a mil. But if you have the diary cape and that teleport, it's like 70k XP an hour and like 2.3 mil gold an
yeah,
hour to do double nats just for having that
yeah,
teleport.
it's crazy.
So now I have to go and do my diaries before I do rune crafting.
Yeah, that's what it feels like, huh? It's like this is just yeah. So, but again, we are playing that game. The culture shifted, the player mentality shifted, and mine has shifted too. I mean, I say this, mainly just to remember the old days, how it used to be, and the sentiments I used to hold and other players used to hold. But the games keep shifting, and we kind of accept the game as it is now, and that's whatever. And I accept it for the most part too. Just little gripes here and there, but ultimately, and I want to drill down on this. I think the game is in its best state it's ever been in, and even though I have all these gripes I complain about, the pros definitely outweigh the cons compared to how the game used to be compared to now. So
Certainly, and that's just the nature of an MMO or any live service game, right? You and I obviously want to be sitting here talking if we did not enjoy the game to some capacity, but I'm
exactly.
still gonna whine. I'm still gonna complain.
Yep. Yep.
I've got things to say about it. I've got gripes, and like I said, I would never want to be Jagex because there is no pleasing everybody here.
Yeah. No, it's wild because, and I've talked to the JMods and I've mentioned it. It's just like, dude, every single update affects just millions of players. I mean, there's just so many players that play differently, so differently. So you come out with one new update it's gonna be a cascading effect between so many subgroups of players, and it's like, dude, that is so hard to keep track of. If you come out with an
I will-
update that has noted potions or something, you're like, okay, that's fine, but you're looking at it as a main. But what about the UIMs? Is that gonna break their game mode? What about Iron Man?
Mhm.
What about the fucking whoever else? It's just there's so many things you got to keep track of at this point. Yeah, I'm with you. I do not envy the devs at all.
I watched, and I do love this to some degree of the far-reaching effects of everything that they do, right? Um, I was watching Proudest Dad do some Coliseum yesterday, and he had a noxious halberd out, and I was kind of confused. I thought maybe he was doing an achievement, and then I watched him doing all these like safe spots, like these new corner trapping safe spots with the noxious halberd, where like nothing can touch him. Like he has prayers off, and he's killing the Minotaur, and I mean, that's like you get rid of your T-bow and stuff because you can now safe spot a bunch of different minions with the Noxious Halberd, and I know, or I guess I don't know, but I can't imagine the J mods were putting the Noxious Halberd in thinking, yeah, this will redefine the meta at Coliseum. This is why we want this in here. They put it in there because it was a unique new cool weapon, and now we have an entirely new meta surrounding the Coliseum on how to just. I'm not going to say cheese it. It's not free with the Noxious Halberd, but it's a lot easier. It's a huge quality of life item there now.
Yep. No, that's actually one of the things I actually look forward to is new weapons that really do change metas in significant ways. The Noxious Halberd actually was something I had been asking for years. It was mainly because of Sarachnis. This is before Ring of Stone tech was introduced to the public, and now we have Aranea boots, which just completely have made Sarachnis. You just click it once and it dies. Just click it and just pray melee and you're good.
Really?
Yeah, no, it's because you just never get caught in webs and your guy's just permanently on the spider, which is, crazy because back then I wanted a powerful halberd that was fast enough for Sarachna so you can get those extra hit offs when you are stuck in a web. But it's just the metas have
Oh, sure.
drastically changed. So it's like that is completely useless. So the
Yeah,
one
no,
thing
you're
I
not even
always
doing
wanted that
webs.
halberd for, but now that it's out, isn't even useful for the place I wanted it. But it's a really amazing weapon. It's got a lot of use in a lot of places, which I'm still happy about.
Yeah, no. Um, should have had something to say, but it's gone now. Oh well.
You're good. So let's think. Varlamore 2 came out. Varlamore 3 is coming out. Are you a Leagues player by any chance?
Um, just by happenstance, I played old school on and off and on and off and on and off until I, got my Tumikins, and decided to commit. But every single time I came back, there was no league. So my first leagues was actually this last one, Leagues 3, I think.
4.
4, sorry. Yeah. It was this last one. And I don't know. I enjoyed it. I played for maybe a week. I got all the perks, kind of had fun, and I, I don't know. The joy for me with an MMO is having one character, seeing it grow and blossom, and being, having a fully maxed account and having all the items and having all the achievements and all the stuff. And Leagues was a neat little detour, kind of a palate cleanser, if you will. But I don't know that I'm looking forward to the next Leagues, and that's just me as a player. I
That
think it's good. I like him, but it's not for me.
It's the same. I see I've never been able to. I even tried to get into them. I just can't because I think I finally started recognizing why that is. It's not just simply. I used to think it was just simply the mode having an end where okay everything's wiped and that sucks. And that's still an element of why I don't like Leagues. But the other element is I now consider Leagues ADHD man mode because there's just a billion things to do, and you do something for 5 seconds, you move on to the next thing for 5 seconds, move on to the next thing
Yep.
for 5 seconds. It's like you can't even take a fucking breather for a couple hours and grind out a couple levels. It's just like you just repeat it, like just 1,000 tasks to do. Go 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 go. It's just like
Yeah.
Jesus, man. Like I'm getting a headache. I'm getting a legitimate headache from this. That's I can't do it.
I got a I got a funny anecdote relating to that actually. I had never done leagues before, and I was excited. And day one, I had some buddies who were like, "Oh, you're gonna love it! It's gonna be amazing!" And we hopped in, and they're off. They're off doing all these tasks, and they're like, "You gotta complete tasks and stuff." And I'm like, constantly opening the in-game UI to look at tasks, and then like closing it and going, "Okay, maybe we'll do this, maybe we'll do that," and trying to go and complete things. Not really knowing what I'm doing. And about 45 minutes later, they're like, "Oh, just use the wiki." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they link me to the wiki page where it has all the tasks, and then it real time updates with what percentage of players have completed it, and what are the easy ones, what are the hard ones, and you can sort them by order, by zone, by all of this stuff. And I go and I tell my wife, "Oh, dude, for 45 minutes I was doing I wasn't using the wiki or whatever," and she goes, "So they were cheating?" And I'm like, "No, they weren't cheating. They just had a huge they." And then I stopped and I'm like, "I don't know. They definitely had an advantage because they were looking at the game as a spreadsheet and not as like an actual game mode. They're
Yeah.
like, all right, here's my massive list of shit to go do for this week.
It's
See you
too
later."
much. It's just a huge
No,
list of chores to do, and it's just like that is not fun for me. That is too much. It's too it's there's too much brain power that's attached to it for way too long, and then
no,
and it's like I don't really care about the cosmetics ultimately. I don't really care about the competition of it, and I don't even really care about getting to the end game because it's just I don't know. You're just gonna cheese everything, and that's not even
right.
that appealing to me. I understand it's a very popular game mode. So many people love it. I'm not discounting any of that, and I think it's actually really good for the game, but not for me. Like probably you would agree.
Yeah, no, I felt like I had been poisoned after my 1 week of doing it. It was just, yeah, no, you can laugh because that's true. I felt sick. I was like, oh my God, I just did like 1,500 random chores, all for the sake of. And this is a personal gripe too, but they're like, we're gonna have some new awesome invos at TOA, and I was so excited. I picked Desert and I went to TOA, and it was like 100% increased health and damage, and I'm like, that's
Jeez,
not interesting. What the fuck,
not at
guys?
all.
And 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 like you said, I cheesed it, and what did I pick? I picked Mage. Never wound up getting my Timokins, but I picked Mage and
That sucks.
wound up cheesing it.
Yeah, it's just it can't be for everybody, but it's still a cool addition to the game. And for the people that really love it, they love it. They look forward to it. And the people that sweat the game mode, I mean, it's the same thing with Dead Man mode. I can't get into Dead Man mode,
Never
but
touched it.
I know
Yeah,
people just love it. They breathe it.
I got a I got a lot of respect for PKers in the PK community. I think similar to the high level community, they clowned on a lot by the average Joe. But I can't get behind Dead Man, man. I can't get behind. I don't think I'll ever learn to PK in this game. It's not my flavor, man.
Weren't you saying earlier, Bo, that anybody can do anything in this game?
Anybody can do anything. You're right, and I'm convinced that I can PK. I don't fucking want to,
Yeah,
man.
that's fair. That's fair. Now PKing, I mean, the thing that taught me how to really get good at PKing was LMS. But
I should give that a try. I
it
when that
can it can be one of the most addicting things. LMS has been poisoned by bots, so for a lot
mhm.
of people, LMS has just become okay, just do it for your clog slots, or just do it for if you're an Iron Man for rune arrows, or just nobody's actually doing it for the sake of just having fun there. But if you do just run some LMS for the fun of it, and there's actually real players that are fighting, you get pretty like most players can get pretty damn addicted to it because it is very thrilling if the game's not full of bots and there's constant action and you're just jumping into a new fight. It's obviously a really tough learning curve initially, but you start getting it down pretty nicely. But again, it kind of comes down to your own ability. Like, do you have good hardware? Do you have a good mouse? Do you have a good refresh rate? Do you have fast clicks? I mean, there's a lot that's going around, or that goes into being a decent PKer. Besides just giving it enough time, you got to have a little bit of skill. But it's
Oh yeah,
fun. It can be addicting.
yeah. No, like I said, mad respect to the PK community. Couldn't be me, but yeah,
Mm.
definitely a lot of skill there. I'm gonna take control here because I feel like we're segueing nice into this, and I made it a point not to listen to anyone's opinions on this until I uploaded my video, and I still haven't
Let's hear it.
listened to really anyone's opinion. But what do you think of the private server stuff that they're doing? What's your hot take on that?
Ooh,
You
ooh.
for, against, you about
So
to rile up the comments?
I've definitely heard. I mean, I think the first few times it was talked about was with like Idol. I had him on the Sae Bae cast. I had Mod Matt K on the cast, and he was talking about this whole private server thing, just official private servers that you could just player run private servers.
Sure.
Now that it's actually been announced, my first, and this is just me being fully honest, I think I've already talked about it on the cast. My first reaction to it is I'm scared of this. I'm scared of it. There's a lot of fear behind it, just of what could go wrong with it. I mean, what happens to the main game? What happens to the servers that are being run? Do the players that own the servers, can they just ban players? Can they just steal your items?
Right.
Can they just what about botting that's going to be happening? What about cheating? What about gambling? What about all this shit that's going to be happening? And there's just a lot that feels terrifying. I think there are a lot of amazing things that could come out with it, but I think it's
Sure. Yeah.
just my initial instincts are just okay. This is big and this is scary, and I'm a little bit concerned about it. I'm a little bit worried, but I do see the silver lining of some amazing private servers that could come out. What about you?
I think you put that pretty aptly, man. I anytime a new update is released, I always feel like I'm a pessimist when I see stuff. But like, everyone's like, wow, this will be new and cool and great for the game. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, how are you gonna moderate that, man? What happens when, like, previously, bot owners who wanted to like train bots had to spin up their own private servers with, stolen assets and try and train it that way. You just gave them full access to a brand new server to train all sorts of bots on for whatever, 5.99 a month, Or what are you going to do when some unsavory types have a wildly inappropriate private server, Is it Jagex's? Is it do they need to moderate their
Yep.
private server? They own the server, but also, these guys with some questionable opinions are paying 5.99 for upkeep. Do you ban them all and keep their $6, or do you say, hey, you moderate your own servers, like you said, with the whole, what happens when I'm not going to use any names. I'll use my name. What happens when I have a private server and I get everyone to like, exchange gold on my server for main game gold, and then I rug pull and I disappear and I'm like, now I've got 10 bill because you guys, you know, traded your main game gold for my private server gold.
Yep.
And now I disappeared and I have max stuff. Like, is that going to be a bannable offense? There's just a massive, massive can of worms that has been opened. I
Yeah.
don't know. I'm excited for the chaos, man. I think this is going to be kind of neat.
That's the thing.
Scared, but yeah.
I think there's so many good things that can come with this. Like any new thing that comes out, when is this such a big thing like this? There's always worries.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, they'll figure out the problems with it. They'll, ban abusers and stuff, and we'll just see how it goes. But if it really is coming out, there is some excitement to be had. But we'll just see. We'll see how many players really transfer over to these new private servers, and we'll see how many just stay on the main game and see, what happens exactly. But yeah, I'm a little bit torn between how I
I
feel about it.
really, I really don't think we're going to see a huge loss of player base on the main game. Um, yeah, the pe- the main draw of an MMO for a lot of people is kind of what I just described. Is you've got your one character, you grow it, and you watch it build over a long period of time. Um, I think private servers will be a detour for most people, and they will come back to the main game eventually. I think it'll be just like leagues. You get your fill, or maybe a new content creator says, "Hey, we're doing, I don't know, prop hunt or whatever this weekend," and they pop out for a weekend, but they'll be back. If you love RuneScape, you love the main game,
Exactly.
with all its flaws and with all of its bonuses. I think this is just a new way for Jagex to monetize, and there's a lot of doomsaying out there. I'm curious to see how they handle all the weird shit that they opened up, but I think it'll be. I don't know. Maybe I sound like a fence sitter, but I don't think it's going to be the end of the game, and I certainly don't think it's going to be as bad or as good as people are saying.
Yep. Any other thing you wanted to ask that was on your mind?
No, no, that was
Okay.
just
Yeah,
kind of
that really is the big thing that was announced, though, and that's something I haven't
isn't
really
it?
been thinking of lately, just because it's just a lot to think about, and there's so many things to drill out and make sure it's. Yeah, it's gonna be a mess. Like you said, I'm looking forward to a little bit of the chaos, but we'll see. What happens.
Yeah, definitely interesting times.
It is. Okay, Fritos. I guess we'll kind of wrap things up. I want to actually ask you for a few shout outs from the community. If there's maybe some underrated YouTubers or any other people in your community that you'd like to give a little shout out to before we wrap things up.
Shit, man, how much time you got? We got we got a lot of underrated YouTubers out there, man. There are so many both high level and unique accounts that I'd love to shout out. But the three that come to mind are all kind of high level community TOA types or TOA Coliseum types. First, I'll shout out. Fucking none of these people know me, by the way. I just think that they need more appreciation. Reynolds, like I said, or Reynolds. He has an amazing, like, if you're worried about the death fee for Coliseum, he has an amazing guide where you can get the death fee down to 20K. So it's not like you're actually spending money to go to go do the Coliseum. If you want to go check that out, as well as a bunch of other cool stuff. I want to shout out. I just found him yesterday. He's super cool. Proudest Dad does a lot of Coliseum stuff. He's the one who I saw the Noxious Halberd tech on. And then warm ups OSRS. He does. It's not. He doesn't do it all the time, but I found him during a. He's really, really, really good at TOA, and he does like he'll carry you for your Fang kit. He does it for free. There's no real world trade or no boosting gold or anything like that. If you're just watching his stream and he happens to be doing TOA, you can hop in his Discord and he'll get you your Fang kit if you want. You know, he just loves doing 1+1 really high level TOA stuff, and he'll carry your ass if you want, as well as a bunch of other really cool content. So those three are the main ones I toss out there.
That's awesome. Great shout outs. Fritos, it was a pleasure getting to know you a little bit better. It's great discovering your channel as well. I'm subscribed now. I'm excited for some more uploads. If you guys listening want to go check out Frito's channel, I'll have it down in the description, his YouTube. You don't live stream, do you?
You know, I mean to, and you know, my wife always says you always love to live stream. You should go and do it more, but it's just life's difficult. I would never be able to lock down a schedule of me actually being able to stream in the evening. I want to, but no time soon.
Even the occasional YouTube live stream to your own audience that watches your videos can go really hard. I know Limport does that here and there. If you subscribe to Limport, he has the occasional live stream. Everybody tunes in. It's a great time, and it's not a consistent thing whatsoever.
Yeah, I'll have to do that sometime.
Yeah. Well, cool. Fritos, thank you very much. If you guys would like to support the podcast, down in the description as well, there's a Patreon link and YouTube membership link. Get your name on the title screen. And that's it from me. Take it easy, guys.